All right, this is our last of the six DBQ documents for the Revolutionary War, and this is actually excerpts from some letters written by a Georgia Loyalist. So this is a person living in Georgia, actually on one of the barrier islands, who has recently moved in December of 1775 from Great Britain to the Georgia colony. And he had mentioned, or I guess the historian Robert S. Davis Jr., Georgia history historian, had mentioned that he thought he was coming to a prosperous, stable, loyal colony. And Georgia was considered very loyal. So that's what he thought he was coming into. And then when he arrives, the royal governor is under arrest. He's under house arrest. So he's been unseated. He's been put on house arrest. The Patriots are in control. And so then he is writing to, people back in England that he knows, and these are just some of the letters, some of the things that he wrote in these letters. And so the first one, December 16th, 1775. So this is very shortly after he arrives in the Georgia colony. And he says, things all over America are in the utmost confusion. People are mad or worse than mad. Now, by mad here, he doesn't mean angry, he means crazy or insane. Um, Indeed, in this province, 2 out of 3 are friends to government. And what that means is that 2 out of every 3 people in Georgia, by his assessment, were actually loyalists, were loyal to Great Britain. But then in the next line he says, "But as there is neither ship nor troop to protect them, they know it is in vain to oppose the current, as the Carolina people are all in arms." So in other words, these people would support Great Britain, but there's no one here to protect them. There's no ships, there's no troops, and so kind of the crazies have taken over. The governor is a mere cipher, and that this word cipher means a person of no importance, right? The governor has no power. Everything is transacted by the committee. Now, he'll use this term committee several times. By committee, what he means is a committee of correspondence. This was a group of patriots who got together and helped make decisions and helped keep the protests and the boycotts on British goods and things like that. So, for the better sort, endeavor to keep their own necks out of the halter, and make use of these fellows only as cat's paws. In other words, look, the good people are just trying to stay out of trouble. They're not trying to get in trouble here. However, I would not write your mind too freely to me about politics, as know not who may intercept the letter. In other words, don't say everything you're thinking, because these patriots are in control, and they may intercept that letter, and then you and me and everybody else may get in trouble. All right, so now we're going to fast forward about a month or a little bit less, January 3rd, 1776. This is still before the Declaration of Independence. Keep that in mind. All right, so the province has acceded, that means agreed, to the resolutions of Congress. Again, he's talking about this Continental Congress, this Committee of Correspondence. That's who he's talking about, the leaders of the Patriots. But it was owing to the threats of the Carolina men that they did it at all. In other words, it's just because the people in Carolina that anybody agreed to any of this. The bulk of the people hereabout are friends to government. Again, most of the people still want to support the British. He's telling another person that. The Liberty men, this is the Patriots, as they are so called, are generally most profoundly ignorant of the merits of their cause. What he's saying here is the people don't even know why they're protesting. They know they're angry, they don't really understand it. And then here, the newspapers are in retailing the vilest lies about the king and ministry. All right, so in other words, what he's saying is, hey, fake news, that's not a new thing, right? Fake news in 1776, that was real. The newspapers are just making up lies. The committeemen in this district are cooled of late in their zeal. In other words, everybody's started to chill because, all right, 2 days ago, 3 gentlemen called upon me inquiring news from England. And he finds out 2 of them are committeemen. They're patriots. And I believe they left me somewhat sicker of their cause than when they came. In other words, after we had been done talking, after we finished talking, they felt a little worse about what they were doing than they had felt before they were talking. One of them asked me whether I thought if the British government got the better, in other words, if the British government wins, would they take any notice of the committeemen? I answered, the most active amongst them might possibly smart, be punished, be hurt. That's what he means for it. What he's saying here is, I think that the people who are really the gung ho's, the people who are really active, yeah, they might get punished pretty seriously. He told me that Congress intended, unless matters were made up by March next, to declare their trade free to any other European power. In other words, if the king doesn't he is hearing from the patriots that if the king doesn't clear things up, they're going to start trading with other countries, which, keep in mind, this is a British colony. They don't have the right to trade with other countries, according to Great Britain. So this man, this loyalist says, I told him that that would little avail. In other words, that won't matter. While Britain remained mistress of the ocean. Again, the British have the greatest navy in the world at this point. He's saying you can try to do whatever you want, but the British are not going to just start letting you trade with France or Spain or any of their other enemies. They're going to blockade. They're going to take over your ships. They'll sink your ships. That's not going to work. And then he makes this interesting note at the very end. The frontier Indians are at present very quiet. Only a few stragglers of them are frequently pilfering, which means stealing horses, but their nation does not approve of such practices. So he seems to actually have a fairly fond opinion of the Indians, but they are a real threat, I suppose you would say. Um, People are aware that, look, when you get on the frontiers, the Native Americans, you're going to have to deal with that. The Indians, as they would have been called. But really, the only ones that are the trouble are these few stragglers, these bad apples who are stealing horses. Most of them, the nation as a whole, the group as a whole, does not agree. All right, and then here's this last letter that we'll look at. Again, it's like a 2-month fast forward. So March 22nd, 1776, still well before July 4th, 1776, and the signing of the Declaration. Since my last letter, which I wrote to you from Wrightsboro, the country has been under almost perpetual alarms. In other words, we're always worried about this war. Several ships of war have been occasionally at Savannah, wanting provisions, food, and other stuff, but the Congress refuses to supply them with for money. In other words, these British ships are coming to Savannah and saying, hey, we need supplies. And the patriots in charge are like, well, we're not selling you supplies. We're fighting you. They accordingly took what came in their way upon the islands near the mouth of the river, but have not yet attempted any violence upon the town. What he's saying is that the British ships are basically just sitting at the mouth of the river, at the head of the river, and just any ship that comes by, they're just stopping and taking all their stuff. So nothing, they're kind of effectively blockading Savannah at this point. About a month ago, the governor, who had been made prisoner by his own house by order of Congress, so the patriots put the governor on house arrest, withdrew on board one of the king's ships where he still continues. So he fled, he ran away and got on one of the king's ships, and now he's just there. Doesn't have any power over the city at this point. Soon after he withdrew, an armed tender was sent up north channel of the river to reconnoiter. Upon making feint of a landing, a skirmish ensued in which a gentleman's house was battered down and 2 or 3 men wounded. So he's talking about a fight here. He's talking about a small battle. Basically, an armed tender was sent up the North Channel. In other words, what he's saying is the patriots pursued the governor. The governor retreats on this ship. The patriots hop on their own ship. It's an armed ship. It's got weapons on it, and follow him up the river with the idea, I guess, that they were going to take back the governor, and get him back on house arrest. But that did not work. There was a small battle. 2 or 3 men were wounded, and the battle didn't work. All the women, children, and valuable effects are removed from Savannah, which is filled with armed men who live there in true Liberty style, breaking into stores. This is sarcasm. In true Liberty style, breaking down stores. It's partly sarcasm and partly he's saying, like, this is what the Liberty boys, this is what your patriots really are. They break into stores, they steal stuff. Good for nothing, patriots, right? But the women and children and everything of importance, everything of value has been moved out of the town. So this gives you a very different take on the patriots, on the city of Savannah, on maybe the way that patriots behaved and acted. It's a very different and very interesting perspective on what was actually happening at the beginning of the Revolutionary War. So that's document 6. You've seen them all now.